Coming up on Esoteric Atlanta.
There was a quote Nikola Tesla said, if you wish something to the effect of, if you wish to learn the secrets of the universe, think of in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, something to that effect. But then Edgar Cayce, who I've studied for a couple decades, always talked about sound. And reading that stuff 10, 15 years ago, I just was like, okay. But now I have a totally different respect for his readings that he did at that time. So I've went back to Edgar Cayce a bit.
As they said, they try to convince us, the Lizzies, that we gave consent to be abducted. I think that must have happened to both of you, where you were abducted at one point and made to feel like you gave consent. And as a child, in a child's mind, it's easy to believe, to consent to a being bigger than you, right? And so that's why I think you both were scared. But now as adults, you know, no, I changed my mind. I did not give consent. You cannot abduct me.
What if some of our Capitol buildings were buildings from Atlantis?
Oh, I believe that. I think a lot of the Tartarian buildings are Atlantean.
Because it's like if you look at like the domed buildings, which is of course the capitals and things, but then you've got like our big cities, which are a completely different architecture. So I'm like, what are the difference in the timeline? That's just been my own little thought process.
Yeah, I think that's why the darkness can't create anything. It can only invert from the light. So that's the reason why. I know the Cassiopeians say Washington, D.C. is a fourth density entry point.
I believe that. It's so...
If you think you're awake and can't be deceived, you're the first person that's going to be deceived.
And before we get into the episode today, just a big thank you to all of our patrons and our producers here on Esoteric Atlanta. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible. If you would like to help support the work we do here on Esoteric Atlanta, there is a link to our Patreon account down in the description box below.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. It's early in the morning on Friday the 13th is when we're filming this. Ladies, I've heard that this is the only Friday the 13th we have this year. I don't know if that's true or not. I just heard that on the Tiki Talks. I haven't fact-checked it, but I feel like that's pretty auspicious. We won't say inauspicious. We'll say auspicious. And before I forget, you guys, we're met here where we're here today. You know, Yasmin Paula, but we're here today with our friend Jennifer. She's also a student at the Esoteric Academy, and she has a YouTube channel. She's a sound healer, Ascension Energies and Sounds. You guys, please make sure, especially if you're interested in the healing arts and taking your power back, working on yourself. We're going to get into it, but sound healing is super important. In Ayurveda, the three elements of life are food, breath, and vibration, which is sound. And so please make sure that you subscribe to Jennifer. And of course, as always, do not forget to subscribe to Paula. You guys know Paula, but I'm going to go ahead and just remind you, Empowered Spirit Healing. Make sure that you give her a subscribe as well. She does incredible meditations, and I feel like the three of us together, we cover kind of the elements of Ayurveda. It's like, with our powers combined, I am Captain Planet. Like, because I do the extras, the physical part of it, you know. So you guys make sure, especially if you are super interested in taking your power back. And before we get into it, guys, you guys know over on the Esoteric Academy, we are running a special right now. We've set our prices really low. Paula can back me on this. We went back and forth with like prices, and we wanted to make sure the prices were low enough so that so people could feel like they could afford it. We didn't want to price gouge people. We wanted more people than most to be able to take advantage of the academy if they wanted to, but enough that we could cover the expenses of the academy. But we're also running a special on top of that. You guys have heard me talk about this before, but we are offering for our new students a 6 months discounted rate for your tuition, a 20% off, whichever tier you pick. The $25 a month tier grants you all of the exercise classes and the live classes. The $40 a month tier grants you everything from the courses to meditations to quantum healing to the live exercise classes. It encompasses everything. So whichever tier you pick that you want to be a part of, if you use the discount code Jennifer B, which is our guest today, Jennifer B. I'll put that all down in the description box below. I think Paula will have that in her video as well. If you use, it's all caps, right, Paula?
Yes, all caps.
In all caps at your checkout, when you go to checkout at the Esoteric Academy, you will get 20% off your first 6 months with us at the Academy. That's all thanks to Jennifer here. So please join us. And on top of that, you get 7 days for free anyway. I never want to forget to say that. Like, you get 7 days of a free trial. We give you a full week, which is a long time, for free, just to experiment with the platform to make sure that it's something that is right for you. And if you like it, you can stick with us. And if you don't, no worries. If you find another teacher you like better, that's awesome too. We just want to make sure everybody finds a teacher and a program that they really like. With that being said, is there anything you want to add to that, Paula, before we get into the conversation?
Yeah, we've just wanted to say that in the Exercise Academy, the exercise part of the membership, we've added some post-workout meditations because we really want to emphasize to people how important it is to integrate the work that you've done from the exercise. And so just as important as it is after you've done your workout to do stretching, it's really important to also just take 5 to 10 minutes to do a little meditation to just really get into your body, to focus and to integrate what you've just done, because we are learning so much, especially through good old Instagram, how incredible exercise is for our health and for healing. Like, it literally releases trauma from your body. And
Yes.
this can be quite an emotional process. Sometimes when you're exercising, things might come up. You might feel angry, you might feel sad, you might just feel a lot of stuff coming up and be like, what is going on? But we just want you to know that that's normal, that's okay, that's part of the process. It's just you releasing stuff from your muscles and from your body that you've been holding onto for a long time. And that's where the different post-workout meditations can be really helpful. Both Bryce and I have created a few different ones for you to pick from, and they just help to integrate after your workout. And then we've also just I'm kind of just becoming aware, maybe it's because I'm coming into winter, but I'm just like, consistency can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, especially when we get really busy. And I just want to help people kind of stay on track with their exercise workout, because that's when you're going to see the results. If you're only doing it once or twice a week, it's still good for your health and that's still going to benefit you, but you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. It's not going to make a dramatic difference. And in order to make a dramatic difference, you need to be really consistent and regular with your workout. So right at the beginning, Bryce and I created the 30-day beginner's guide that walks people through, you know, how to start if you're a beginner to doing exercise, and that's got great information in it. But then just more recently, I've just added some healthy habits tracker just to kind of help you adopt some healthy habits. And I just find that when you take note of it, it's even like if you're eating, if you kind of keep record of what you're eating, all of a sudden you become more accountable and you're like, oh, okay, I really want to stick to this because I want to be able to tick that off on my list.
Yeah.
So we just you know, and we're always adding as much value as we can to our membership because we want to give you guys as much value as we can.
Yeah, it's our service to you. That's our service to others, is to help. So absolutely. And Jennifer, you have been on a journey yourself. You're a very active member on our academy, which I love. I love when the students, I love that in my in-person teaching too. Like when the students in the Shala like really take a leadership role, that's really powerful, because when you're in a shala, which for those who don't know, a shala actually translates in Sanskrit to a barn. but that's what we call a yoga school basically, is a shala. So there should never be, it should never be called a yoga studio. Like that should not be a thing. Which I have my own theories as to why they call a lot of times when people in the 60s and 70s were bringing yoga from the India to America. They were looking for places to sublet, rooms to sublet that were empty that they could teach in the early morning hours, which most of the time you find that in dance studios.
Yeah.
So I think that's how the studio kind of got attached to yoga. You're never going to see it called a yoga studio in India. It's always a shala. And so I'm very particular in using the word shala instead of studio, because a shala is, even though it translates to barn, it's actually for yoga, it's a school. And that's very different than like a studio. You're not coming to perform or to practice for a performance. You're coming to a school to learn. You're coming to a school to make mistakes, to have some correction, to have encouragement, to recognize your own blind spots. I go to my own shala with my own teacher, and the community, the shala mates, which another word for that is a satsang. So your shala mates, the people that you're enrolled in your shala with, become very important people. You do end up sharing a lot of your vulnerabilities with, there's a great documentary called Mysore, New York. And it William Dafoe is in it, as well as Gwyneth Paltrow. It takes place in September 2001, actually, in New York City, which is wild. They picked that month to film a month intensive with Patabi Joyce in New York. And obviously the event happens in the middle of it. That affects the way that they teach this intensive. But William Dafoe does say, he talks a lot about the Mysore room, which is how we practice Ashtanga at the shala, and how, in a Mysore room, a lot of times students don't know each other's names because they just practice, but they know each other. Like they've been practicing beside each other's for a long time, and they've seen each other struggle and succeed. And he goes, you'll be practicing beside this person for such a long time, and you don't even really know their name or what they do for a living. But when they succeed, when they have a breakthrough, you get so excited because you're sharing that energy together. And that's really sums up the value of your satsang and the people that you find yourself. My peers at the main shala in India are some of the people that we've shared in some of the darkest moments of our lives, some of the brightest moments of our lives. And you can't help but be vulnerable because you're literally walking in together as strangers, having your lives ripped apart in front of each other. And there becomes maybe it's trauma bonding, I don't know. there becomes a very strong bond with your shala mates, and very special relationship with your shala mates. And so I, as a teacher, appreciate it when students, because teachers, we have roles in the shala, but it's not as intense as the students' relationship to each other in the shala. So I thank you, Jennifer, for filling those shoes and really being a strong voice for the students at the Esoteric Academy. So with that being said, do we want to get into it, ladies?
Yeah.
Sure. I love the Academy. I think there's a great group of people there, and I've enjoyed meeting so many people, and just cool people, really down-to-earth cool people. And I've been seeking kind of a niche of like-minded people, and I've went to different things locally, and yeah, it didn't work out very well. So I feel very at home at the Esoteric Academy. So when you guys launched that, I was like tickled pink. I just was like, oh my gosh, that's great. I'm going to join that because they're offering what I'm looking for as far as spirituality and the depth of it. And then me as a sound practitioner helps too. So yeah.
Well, I definitely want to get into that too. And what you're talking about, I want to hit on something quickly because I know we've talked about this kind of offline. A lot of like the fake yoga classes, like the vinyasa flow classes, feed a lot into the ego because they're not working off of a set system. Usually teachers for vinyasa flow are not trained in apana, prana, neutral postures. They're not trained to understand the philosophy. And so the practice is not consistent. And so it feeds into the ego. But when you're actually going into a school where your ego and your body is being ripped apart, you can't help but be humble and be grounded. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of our students are humble and grounded, is because they've gone through that. They've been brought to their knees by your own self. It's your own. The practice is just the practice, but it's pulling people down to their knees within different areas of the practice. And that brings humility and clarity and truth. There's no ego. There's no pissing contest, because we're all just just walking each other home, and we're all struggling, and we're all human. Nobody's in the fifth dimension, y'all. That's propaganda.
Oh my
That's
God.
not, we're here in third density. We're not, that's la la land. That's derangement. That's delusion. That's ego. We're all here together in the third density. We're all fighting the Lizzies together. We're all in
Yeah,
physicality.
we're still playing the game.
Yeah.
The game has not ended yet. We haven't crossed the finish line yet. And that's part of it. And that's why a lot of the exercise classes I do repetitive stuff too, is to make sure that you're dropping, you're not skipping over the really intense stuff, and you're actually going there. So with that being,
the exercise part has been a huge game changer for me. I never understood exercise as I do now, and just the way you speak of the energy and the movement in the body. It's just like, what a different group of society we would be if this is the kind of stuff we would have been taught as young adults moving into adulthood.
It just makes sense, right? Like when you start to understand energies of the body, it makes sense why exercise is the foundation of spirituality. It's like, duh, it's common sense at that point. Yeah.
It really
I agree. And it took me a moment. I grew up with a mom who, born in the 80s, where it was like jazzercise and low-fat dieting. And some of my earliest memories are sitting in the back of a jazzercise room with the step aerobics, my mom doing step aerobics. I think she had every Richard Simmons video, The Firm. Y'all remember The Firm? Which is kind of what we do. I actually was like, that's kind of the template we use a little bit. I didn't even realize that. But, but it was all about vanity and health. Which is, listen, if you want to look good, great. If you want to take care of your health, great. But those motivating factors will dissipate. But when it's about changing your way of looking at your body, you're not focused on burning calories. Instead, you're focused on burning karma. That's a game changer.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me work harder, actually.
Yeah. And really acknowledge your body, and instead of just being in the burn and hating every minute of it and just being like, fuck, I got 30 more seconds, and actually changing your mind and be like, what is that burning? Why am I feeling a burning sensation there? Going into that subtle body response the body can communicate with you, and then treating your body with respect. You can have two people doing could run a marathon.
And just being more kind with your body too. Like it's not a punishment anymore so that, we could look good in a bikini or anything. It's like, I'm doing this because I love my body and I care for my body and I want to be strong. I want to be healthy. I want to release all of this stuff that I've been holding on to for so long. It just, I really, I don't think I've stuck at something for quite as long as I have stuck at this, and I think it's because of all the spiritual stuff. It's like it's a whole nother reason for doing exercise, and I love it.
You could have two people training for a marathon. One could be training for spiritual purposes, mental purposes, meditation. The other could be training to look good in a bathing suit. They could be the same dosha, same weight, same height, but the training, once they're done, their bodies are going to look different. The one that was doing it for spiritual reasons is going to look better, going to look healthier than the one that was abusing themselves.
The glow will be there from the release of the energy from the auric fields and all that.
Same work. It's the same work, but it's a different perspective on the work. And that is what's kept me going, even though I'm high energy anyway, so I like to move anyway. But that has been what has kept me going, honestly, for 19 years, is that there is something deeper that's happening here. Also, we want to get into the psychedelic woo-woo side. That's how even the Cassiopeans have said this. There was one reading a while back. I think I put it up on YouTube, where they talked about how within our vein system, our vascular system, we have blood and lymph, the lymph that moves through the blood, the veins. But there's also another particle that our scientists have yet to notice, and it creates a glow. And I think I said, wait, if I can't remember if I read it on YouTube. I was like, wait a minute, the yogis have been talking about, my teacher talks about this. There's an elixir in your vein system. And that creates that glow. That's why their eyes glow and their skin looks better when they exercise. That's part of the spiritual side. And no, modern science has not found this yet, but it's in the yoga sutras. It's in the Vedic text. This elixir is spoken about that runs through your vascular system. And if you're not exercising, then that elixir, just like your blood and your lymph, isn't really being moved properly through the body. And so it's so deep. It's so the arms, we want strong arms so that we have a strong heart. Physically, that also plays out. Like conductors have really strong hearts from moving their arms so much, but also energetically, the arms come out from anahata. Strong arms can either carry someone and support someone, or they can beat someone, depending on where the heart is. And so that's why we work the arms. That's why we do weights on the arms, is to strengthen the empathy and the compassion.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do that really well, Bryce, because there are some times I'm exercising with you and I'm just like 30 seconds. I'm not sure about that, but we're going to roll with this and just I can't feel my arms right now, but it's okay. They'll come back after the 35 seconds. Yeah. It's a challenge for sure.
Over time it'll get easier. But with that being said, I thank you for saying that, Jennifer. And I do I could talk all day about exercise and why it is the foundation of spirituality, and how, I even say as for healers who aren't like in my job, I've signed a contract with the main child that I would make sure that I would do my practice first. That is very understood in my genre. But even for like Paula with like Reiki healing, or you with sound healing, even tarot card readers, like it's of the utmost importance that you balance your energy first before you serve somebody else.
Yes. And when there was a show you did and you said something to the effect, if you're going to do a tarot reading, you better do a 15-minute walk or a 15-minute run. And I am so precise about that. It's like make sure I am all aligned and in a good energetic health before I even want to encounter someone to help assist them with the healing. I have to be my best. I want to give them my best.
Yeah. Yeah. And that being said, when you are doing Reiki or tarot cards or sound healing, or even for me as a teacher, when I adjust people, there's always going to be a slight lost in translation, right? Because as a human being, you're filtering the information through your human brain. Mm-hmm. But we want to make this as safe as possible, that you're not projecting your own shit onto somebody. So that's also another reason why you also clean yourself out before, so that your stuff has been put to rest for the day.
Yeah.
And therefore you have calmer nervous system yourself, so that you can actually be 100% supportive of the person in front of you and give them the clearest information that you possibly can in that moment. And for any healer out there and I know people get mad at me when I say that, but if someone is massively overweight and they claim to be a healer, I won't go to them, because you're not working on, how can you help me if you're not working on you?
I've encountered a lot of Reiki healers like that.
Yeah, how can you help me if you can't help yourself? You're not willing to look at your own shit. So how are you going to help me with mine? Yeah. And so that's in the Ashtanga world, obviously pregnancy, there's leeway with women who are pregnant. Obviously that's not really weight gain. That's the body just having a baby and then working its way down. But, my teacher was always why belly coming? Why? Thank God he never said that to me. That was always a fear I had. You walked in, there was one girl who got really skinny, and every day he'd be like, 3 glasses of milk every day. That was what he thought would make her gain. But he was concerned. Obviously that translated, he was concerned. Why are you so skinny? What's going on? You're not balanced. You're imbalanced. So it's vitally important, as I just said in the email out to our group for our new somatic class, that I wanted to clarify that. Like, don't compare yourself to me or anybody else. You want your teacher to be 10 steps ahead of you, because then you're safe, because your teacher's already done her own, or his or her own mistake. I've already fucked up enough with myself to try not to try to stop you from making the mistakes I made. I know what happens when you do you could do something wrong 1,000 times and be okay, but that 1,001 time, that's when it all falls apart. And that's so don't ever compare yourself. And that's why it's important to actually judge your teachers. Absolutely judge them. When you go into judge them on their ability to execute the work themselves. That's important. I mean, look at Cindy's who comes on, she's going to be doing a lot of stuff. She's super fit. She's in her early 50s. And all since I've known her, she's constantly practicing, constantly in her own shala, doing her own work. She comes to my classes constantly. And that's such a good example that she's showing for her student body, that I'm in this too, and that's how I can serve you. So anyway, with that being said, now, Jennifer, you're a sound healer. And as I said earlier, the 3 pillars of Ayurveda are food, breath, and vibration. which is obviously sound and all that encompasses. So unless you have anything you want to add to that, Paula, I want to know, Jennifer, like your story. How did you find sound healing? How did you realize like that healing is not just going to the doctor, that there's a healing is nuanced?
So a good friend of mine, I've always been spiritual, like the rest of us. And I've seen bowls when I went into occult shops and went over the years. But about 4 years ago, a friend of mine stopped over. She'd gotten a crystal bowl just because she'd always wanted one. And she was playing it. I was kind of fascinated with it. I was a little captivated with that, you know. So the next day came and I sent her a text. And I'm like, hey, are you going to be around tonight? Because do you mind stopping back over and bringing that bowl with you? And she did. She obliged. She was kind enough to oblige. And she's like, do you want to play it? And I'm like, yeah. So I sat there, and it was the heart chakra note one. And I sat there and played that and played that and played that. And I felt this like huge release in my chest. And it was like, it just felt like something jarred loose. I couldn't really explain it. But then after that, I craved that sound. So I started researching and looking into it. And then I bought a set of, I think I waited. I'm a long researcher before I'm a purchaser. I like to know what I'm getting and who the vendor is and all that stuff. So I ended up getting a seven bowl set. And I'd come home from work every day and sit there and play those and just totally feel like normal. And I just thought to myself, I can't believe I feel this way. I never thought I could feel this inner peace. And I never thought I could ever feel this calm. And I don't have anxiety, for crying out loud. Usually my jaws are clenched and just things like that. So I started noticing all these little things that sound vibration was helping my moods. I was sleeping better. So then I got a little crazy and I just started adding to my sound set. I started buying brass bowls and chimes and just started playing. And I have a nice clientele, and I noticed the progression in them when I work with them. And I also see a falter back if they don't see me after so long, which is okay because life gets us all the time, everybody. But so so then I started learning. There was a quote Nikola Tesla said, if you wish something to the effect of, if you wish to learn the secrets of the universe, think of in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, something to that effect. But then Edgar Cayce, who I've studied for a couple decades, always talked about sound. And reading that stuff 10, 15 years ago, I just was like, okay. But now I have a totally different respect for his readings that he did at that time. So I've went back to Edgar Cayce a bit. But other than that, that's kind of how I got started with it. And playing sound is it feels so good to do for people because you just see them shift and relax. And you can see when people get tense, and then I try to talk them through. Remember to take a breath, even when you're doing your exercises and I'm working out with you, there are times I need to hear that to breathe. Mm-hmm. So it's just, I really enjoy helping people and helping people help themselves because it's a joint effort between a healer and a practitioner. Excuse me, I call myself a practitioner, but a practitioner and a client. There's a joint journey there. So as Bryce has said in the past, it's important to know your healer and to know where they've been and just make sure you've got a genuine one coming from a genuine space.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's no, you're never going to find it. There's no such thing as like a perfect healer, a perfect teacher.
But we're not perfect.
No, we're humans too. We have our own shit. But somebody who's really done their own work on themselves, and that's how it starts, right? Like I think I can speak for the three of us. When I was a little girl, I didn't think I was going to be a yoga teacher. No. I didn't think I was. I started studying yoga because I was intrigued, because all of a sudden I had that what we call in Sanskrit a prativa moment. Prativa means a flash of illumination, where all of a sudden it's like Pandora's box opens. Like you see the world in a philosophy, a thought, a sound, a healing happens to you. and you can't, it affects you so deeply that you want to study it because something strange happened and you don't understand why you now see the world differently. And so you go on that journey for your own self, and the next thing you know, you're now leading people down the journey too. You become that teacher, that practitioner, that healer. We typically, as we call ourselves teachers, we don't call ourselves really healers either. We're teachers. You call practitioners, different word for the same thing. I know in Reiki it's more of like a healing. But yeah. So I think that's important. In a world where there's so much ego, I think the real, genuine practitioners, teachers, healers are people who never thought that that's what they would be.
Yeah.
True. That's true. Because yeah, you're right. I would have never thought. I wanted to be a veterinary when I was a kid.
Oh, really? I wanted to be a flight attendant.
Oh, right.
It seems so glamorous to be on a plane in high heels and serving everyone.
Now you're doing Reiki. Like, it's like you just never. What they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. You know, like I find that funny too, because I am not, listen, I like going on daily hikes, but I'm not Mrs. As weird as it might seem, I'm not like Mrs. Outdoorsy. Like I had a cousin once. I have a cousin that's a lot like me, and I remember really little. She was like, I'm an indoor person because outdoor people. She's like, I'm more indoorsy. Like, I like living in cities. I like high heels, even though I have you guys exercise barefoot. I like that stuff. I always did. I loved living in LA. I loved the city, the lights, all that kind of stuff. So for me to end up in India,
yeah, that was probably a big culture shock for you. I think it's a culture shock for anybody to go to India. I've heard, but
I've never been in Africa. I had been in like third world countries before, like countries in Africa, but India is very different. And so when my first week there, my first trip to India, I was like having breakdowns in my room. Like, what have I done? Like, what have I done? Why I'm stuck here for like months. Like, what have I done? I'm like throwing up every 5 minutes because of the food. Just trying to, but then I loved it. I started to love it. So for us as that do this, you end up going down paths that really almost challenge. It's like I always say, make Mother India is a teacher as well, especially for a Westerner. But it ends up putting you in places that that's when you really love something, when you end up putting yourself in a situation that you wouldn't normally put yourself in. Like nobody goes on a vacation to India. Like that's not a destination. It's not, you go to Bali.
Learning experience, isn't it?
Not to rest and rejuvenate, right? Like it's not, So yeah, I think that's a good note for people, Jennifer, is really look at the teachers, the sacrifices they've made, the educational experiences that they've had. Who are there, where they learned from, and that says a lot about their integrity as a teacher. We don't do these things to be millionaires. Most practitioners don't even ever retire. They live from paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And yeah, I just really wish people could kind of come to that understanding that there is that relaxation and just to ground into their body, because it's important that I try to use a lot of sound that grounds us down, because we are so all over the place. Some of us are in the woo. I'm in the woo a lot. I'm not going to lie, but it's just so much fun, but it doesn't really work either. Sometimes you really got to pull yourself down and get it together.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's interesting you said that, because as you know, in my exercise videos, what am I constantly doing? Pulling people down into your body.
You taught me that, to be honest.
I really work a lot with Mula Bandha, which is the base root bandha, which is, Muladhara is the base chakra. Mula Bandha is the base root bandha, which is the lock. So no one really talks about the bandhas, I find, in like the more secular world. Like we talk about the bandhas all the time in traditional yoga. The chakras are great, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't know what the bandhas are, because it's like, I love Millie. Look at Millie. She's the star of the show right now.
She's just in heaven. She's like, I'm just getting so much love. She's healing me with her purring. She's purring right now.
But that lock in the perineum, which is like a Kegel for women, right? Like, so it's like I always say, I tell my students in person a lot, like for those of us who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, when skinny jeans were really in, like you would lay on the bed and use a coat hanger to put that you were sucking your stomach, and that's pretty much mula. That's the kind of the beginning of mula bandha, right? That's controlling. So the energy, like not having a strong bandha in your perineum, it would be like pouring water through like a tube without there being a lock at the bottom. The energy just goes right out. And so you can try to perfect your chakras, but if you're not strong in your perineum, that energy is just going to go everywhere. It's not going to stay in your body. And we want it to stay in the body. And so that's strong legs, which I just said, Paula, did I send you this new study where strong legs, the stronger your legs are?
Yeah, I just shared that before on Instagram. Yeah.
So all of these scientific studies are literally mirroring what the ancient yogis were saying. Strong legs, so a strong mula bandha is what gives you vitality and longer life.
Yeah.
Why? Because the energy is actually in the body. It's not. So Jennifer, for those of people who might be into sound healing but have never heard of this, in your perspective, from what you've learned, why is it dangerous to always kind of be out of the body and not in the body spiritually? Why do you think that is?
Well, you're not spiritually dealing with your crap. You're not dealing with your own issues.
Mm-hmm. You're disassociating.
Yeah.
And I do that too. I'm Vata as hell. I'm an Aquarius and I'm Vata. I am out I'm up in the clouds all the time.
And I like air. But then there's times I just I'm like, this isn't what it is. This isn't what it's about. So I just remind myself that. And it's been a real big struggle the last 3 weeks or so. But yeah. Because I really do want to just stay up there. It's just a lot easier.
It's easier to leapfrog over the hard stuff, right? To try to anyway, but that's just karma, right? That's guaranteeing you another trip around back to Earth. That's the thing. The universe it doesn't matter to the universe how long it takes you. You can keep coming back and doing this until you're blue in the face. But
yeah, I really am going to work hard to not. I don't want to be. No, I want this. As far as I'm concerned, I'm really hoping that I do well. That this is my last rodeo for a long time on this. Yeah,
physicality is hard.
Yeah.
What about you, Paula? Like with your healing, how has grounding into your body helped you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely so important because I mean, I'm so being Pisces and Vata, I'm just off with the fairies a lot. And I've actually realized that, as a child, I think that was how I coped. Just in stressful situations, I coped by just being in my head and being off with the fairies all the time. But I 100% agree with Jennifer that like you're not dealing with your crap if you're not here and you're not present. And I feel like the exercising is definitely helping a lot, even with my healing work as well, because it's just, I mean, I've always been quite like into exercise. I just haven't always been so consistent with it. But yeah, I'm trying to be a lot more consistent with it now because I've got a whole new perspective on it. And I do feel like it has definitely had an impact on my healing work and just feeling more clearer. And I mean, like, even I just caught up with a friend today and she's like, oh, your skin's looking really good. And I'm just like, yeah, I've been working out this week. It's just like, but people can see it, people can see. And I just feel like it's more clean energy, because you're releasing stuff. And I just think, yeah, that's just really important. But yeah, I just don't feel like, if you're off with the fairies and you're trying to help someone work through stuff, you're not present and you're not tuning in to what they really need because the struggles are real. Like we are here, we've chosen to come here and to be on a 3D earth, so we have to be grounded and we have to deal with this. Like we do still have to play the game. We can't just not pay our taxes and not pay off our credit card bills and not do certain things just because Gasara might be coming or whatever, it's no, we're still playing this game right now. We still have to take part in society, and part of that is being present. We still have to, be in our bodies, and we still have to work through and move through this stuff. We can't just sit around waiting for a shift to happen. We're not just going to magically pop into, you know, 4D positive or whatever dimension. We have to move through it. And one of the best ways that we can move through it from my understanding of what I've looked into, it's going to be less painful, not pain. I don't know if it's going to be painful or not, but I know it's going to be uncomfortable to move into a higher dimension if you are just sitting around eating junk food and not moving your body. Like it's going to move a lot more comfortably if you're doing the work and clearing the stuff. And that's why I think, like, yeah, I go off with the fairies, but then I have to ground myself back down again, because if we don't, it's going to make all of that transition a lot more uncomfortable.
Well, you just won't transition if you're not doing your own shit, your own work.
Yeah.
If you're avoiding and you're constantly blaming the establishment or blaming somebody else for your hardships, you're not going to move forward. You're going to be stuck to do this again. And that's with like the sound healing and the exercise. I think the things they have in common is like when you said you felt that vibration like in your chest, like in that area, that is very much a sensation in the body. It's not happening etherically that you're recognizing. It's happening. It's not like, even though looking at the northern lights are beautiful, you're not watching something outside of yourself. You're experiencing sensation in the body with sound. And that pulls that awareness into where that vibration is happening. Same with exercise. When you're doing a hard cardio class, like your mind is not disassociating. It's there in that moment. The mind might be hating it in that moment, but it's there. Even if it's hating it, it's there. It's not anywhere else. Lifting that heavy weight, your mind is focused on it's there in the body. The body is feeling that sensation. And that's another key element to this, that sound healing and exercise. I mean, they obviously work together. Like, that's the thing about Ayurveda, is that everything can stand by itself, but also comes together. It supports teams, like a team, right?
And there was a lot of times when I started playing initially, I sat and cried.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
I just sit there and sob. And I'm like, holy crap, where is this coming from? It just blew my mind. But speaking of sound, I'm very blessed this week. I've got a road construction crew outside my house. So I apologize if you hear beep, beep, or some diesel vehicles. You might not even hear it, but that is going on if you hear something strange.
That's okay. I understand that panicky feeling, though. We have had construction ongoing next door, and usually people can't hear, but I'm like, if you hear something, it's not a demon. It's literally construction worker next door.
But there was one thing I wanted to mention about something I learned in one of my sound classes about the cats purring. So in one of my sound classes, this is a lot of fun stuff you hear. They said that basically in Egypt, they had cat houses that were full of cats, okay? That people would go in and the cats would lay on them and they would purr, and that vibration would be healing.
That does not surprise me.
Isn't that interesting? And I'm like, so that's where cat house came from?
Wow.
Just a little bit.
That's so fascinating, because I've heard that their purring is very, very healing for people. And that, you know, because you can really feel it too. Like, she's sitting on my lap right now and she's purring, and I can just feel the vibration.
Yes, that's a vibration. That is a healing vibration.
Yeah. I had read something too about the birds chirping in the morning. That we should add it.
I'm sorry to be so disruptive. Yeah, the birds chirping in the morning bring a higher frequency to start the planet off for the day. They that I've heard, that I've seen. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because they're raising the frequency. They're trying to bring the frequency up for the day.
So there's these sounds in nature, and that's like, again, I talk about this almost every episode. Like, the Navajos taught their children, white magic, you work with nature to help people move through the seasons of their life. Black magic, you work against nature for your own selfish desires. So if we allow ourselves to fall into the rhythm of nature, listen to the birds chirping, the cats, getting into our bodies, allowing our bodies to feel the vibration of healing, we're working with the physicality. We're working with the game, basically. But when we sit there and we pout and we refuse to move and we say, you know, we're waiting for a med, that's black magic. I'm sorry. I mean, Paul and I talked about this yesterday. The whole medbed thing, you know, I wish more people would research medbeds. I have an episode on Gnostic TV from a whistleblower about what medbed technology means. If you are against the hurting of children, then you should be against a medbed. Med beds are powered by children. Yeah. Just like that special cocktail drink. It's no different. And so all these people who are like, protect the children, save the children, but yet they're wanting a med bed. You're the reason why the cabal is still doing this, because you're consenting. She's still using, because you want a med bed. So you're consenting to continue to use children. Why don't you just do the work yourself?
Yeah. And I mean, that's why we chose to be here anyway.
Yeah.
What was to do this? So I just kind of feel like, well, it's a bit of a waste of a life if you come here and you're not doing the work, you know, because that's why we wanted to come.
Yeah, you're going to have to come do it again.
That's so important, because what have we learned from the Cassiopeians? Who are the fallen angels?
Yeah, us. Yeah.
Us. It was so fast.
I was so blown away by it.
I got to tell you guys, I've really reflected on my life. And it was like 2015 or 2016, and I'd love to talk about cemeteries too sometime. But I was driving by a cemetery and I had this epiphany. And I thought, you know, well, it doesn't make any sense, because if we come from a heaven and we fell down, aren't we all fallen angels? Because I was thinking about this like in 2015, 2016, because, you know, there are people, and I'm sure you two have encountered people that you've met in your life, they just have angelic energy. Yeah. They have angelic energy. Or you hear, oh, that was an angel in disguise. You've got these little bits and hints and pieces. But then I fell back asleep. I probably got to the corner and took a left, and that was it. But I remember these little things throughout my life. So, yeah. So when that all started coming about, like last fall, I watched this thing on the Nephilim and the fallen angels. And I was just like, you know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like these Nephilim, how do these two things connect? This doesn't make sense to me. And all of that. Well, then I saw a tarot card reader had come up. Who really are the fallen angels? And I'll be honest, I don't really follow tarot card readers. I understand tarot. I've read cards different times in my life and stuff, but I listened to her and she said that. She goes, we're the fallen angels, you guys.
Yeah, that's what the
we came down from heaven into this physical body. And I thought, and then here we are with the Cassiopeians. So I think I really want to learn more about that.
Well, think about it. How many people out there are being like, well, the cabal's the fallen angels, and the RH negative is the Nephilim. No. We're all equal, boo. Stop projecting onto other people. You are just as guilty. We all felt we were a soul complex that fell together and shattered into all the physical pieces.
Yeah.
We did this together. Nobody victimized you like the cat. So they had that conversation. Did the Lizzies trick? They're like, no, there's no such thing as tricking. In that they basically presented the idea, because being in a physical body is service to self, because we have to take care of our bodies, right? We wanted to experience physicality. So we became the fallen angels and came into a physicality, shattered and came into a physical. We made that choice. Nobody tricked you. You're not a victim. You chose to be in this body. Because you decided to start the game, to take a seat at the game. The Lizzies offered us a seat at the you know, the gambling table, whatever game it is. I can tell I don't play games, card games. You know, Texas Hold'em. They offered us a seat. We could have said no thanks, but we said, you know what? That looks kind of interesting. And time is eternal anyway. Why don't I have a seat at this and why don't I pull my cards out and play Texas Hold'em? We decided to take that table.
And we're still playing Texas Hold'em.
And the whole Lizzies, you know, the dark forces want to enslave us. And so what better way to enslave somebody than making them powerless by convincing somebody else that they've been victimized by an etherical being, when literally you are the fallen angel. You watching this right now. Yes, you, every human being that has a soul on this planet is a fallen angel. And we decided, no one tricked us. We got to take our power back. I feel like by knowing we weren't tricked, that we chose this, that's pretty powerful. Like I chose to take this ride. We can't take our seatbelt off mid roller coaster ride and eject.
It'd be nice. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
We have to finish the game, you guys. And by finishing that game, if we decided to be in physicality, guess what? How do we finish the game? by being in physicality.
Yeah, and getting
That's why
through it.
the Yoga Sutras is a perfect manual. It's like the manual that was created for us fallen angels to learn how to like be in. And the Nephilim too. The Nephilim are not on planet Earth right now. Everybody
Yeah,
has
I'd
all
like to.
these.
Yeah, I'm confused. That why did they always put the? Not that we all have answers, but why would they? Why are the Nephilim and the fallen angels the same in the same always in the same category?
Nephilim, I think, from what I understand, what I've read about from the Cassiopeians, is that they're transient. They call them transient passengers. So they come and go. They come to Earth when they're needed. They're like the army for the Lizzies, basically. So they come to Earth when they're
Oh,
needed. They're not
right.
our friends. They're not the giants that I was always under the impression they were the giants. They might have
Yeah,
been
same.
taller structure at one point, but that's not necessarily always what the Nephilim look like. So all the giant bones that we find, that's just our own answer. That's not Nephilim. So the Nephilim are not on planet Earth right now. They will be coming back, what the Cassiopeians have said. And what's interesting is that Laura, I think this is, I know this is, they talk about this in the Wave series book, but she also talks about it in the forum as well. And I actually agree with Laura, her hypothesis. And she wrote this hypothesis back before, this was in like the late 90s. She believed, and I have to be careful about how I say this, guys, from what the Cassiopeians have said, I'm totally paraphrasing, so please read this for yourself. The form is free. I'll put a link below. Is that the Nephilim are going to, the energy, so the consciousness, the Nephilim as a consciousness, will take the form in bodies through DNA modulation. Now, what I take that to mean, taking it a step further, which she didn't mention this because I don't think they had covered organic portals yet. So we know from the Cassiopeians that possessions don't really happen to people who have souls. It can happen, but it's very rare. Because when a body has a soul in it, for a Lizzie to try to take over that body, that's two souls fighting. That's a lot of energy for the Lizzie to try to maintain. So they more typically possess organic portals because there is no soul. So I, taking that understanding with the Nephilim, with combining Laura's hypothesis with my own speculation, I think that through these, with the organic portals, that's how the Nephilim are going to come through. And they're not going to be giants. We look what's happening in LA right now. They're going to do the bidding of the Lizzies, basically, the people that don't seem to be brainless. I think we have a couple of them in the truth world. The brainless ones that don't have critical thinking skills, that are totally pulling people off the path because their job is to be enforcers, or like the Gestapo of the Lizzies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have all this junk conspiracy where people are talking about, oh, the Nephilim are a particular blood type or they're giants. That is misleading you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a soul group that are Nephilim that are going to be coming through with DNA mutation.
That's interesting because I think Edgar Cayce, in one of his readings from back in the day, he said something like before Atlantis fell that they were trying to, maybe the Cassiopeian said it. I'm really sorry. My information's swirling in my noggin. I'm sure you both understand.
Oh, yeah.
But they were trying, they were trying to create a fourth density, like body, or excuse me, a body to insert souls.
That's organic portals. They used organic portals to not trick us, but tempt us to be the fallen angels. So the organic portals have been here since the beginning.
It's so funny. Edgar Cayce calls organic portals as the same thing, non-developed souls. And well, they are going to event. I know, isn't it? It's so interesting how it lines, but they will develop those other chakras in time. But in that, he goes into this big chapter how we shouldn't judge them and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, man, Edgar, they're pretty bad sometimes, dude. It's hard to really encounter that.
You should actually. You can't like, I mean, I can think about people that I think are organic portals, but I can't give them that diagnosis. From what I understand, every organic portal has narcissism, is a narcissist, whether that's covert, overt, malignant, but not every narcissist is an organic portal. Some narcissists are what they call distressed souls. So they're a soul person in distress, and that's playing out with narcissism. But every organic portal has. That's why they say narcissism is really hard to cure. Like the narcissist has to be very self-aware in order to, so that those rare instances where a narcissist is able to go through therapy and be self-aware, I think those are soul people in distress. But for most narcissists, they can't self-reflect. Well, that study just came out a few years back and it was mind-boggling to me that like 50% of the population does not have an inner dialogue.
Yes, my daughter was telling me about that, and I was like, "What?"
Oh wow!
I talk to myself all day long.
All that.
My inner dialogue is the reason why I have high anxiety. What are you talking about?
I always have voices in my head.
Like Todd and
I was like, how can somebody not have an inner dialogue? I was blown away. I was just sitting in the car talking to my daughter, and we're like, "What?"
I know. I was like, and this was right before the whole organic portal thing dropped with the Cassiopeia. Like, but I remember being like, "What do you?" There's some people, so they're just people that get up and go to work. Like, you don't like
think
contemplate
about
life when you're sitting on the subway. Like, you don't contemplate like how we got
analyze everything and go through everything 100 times.
Like, you evaluate things you did on the playground at kindergarten, like, and feel and try to lay down at night to sleep, and all of a sudden
feel embarrassed about things from years ago.
Like, what do you? My boyfriend was like, yeah, that's why they see narcissists sleep like a baby. They don't self-reflect. They don't have the ability. So that was interesting because it said 50% of the population. And then how many percentage of the population that are organic portals? 50%.
It's a little connecting, huh? Interesting. That's so interesting. I did not know that.
Isn't that crazy? Well, and also the Cassiopeians say that the corrupt bloodline is organic portals.
Oh.
So organic portals will target souled people. Now, do they know that's what they're doing? No, but of course the Lizzies use the organic portals. They use the organic portals to entice us to planet Earth. And they use the organic portals. They send them in to try to disrupt a souled person. But organic portals, because they don't have self-reflection, they don't have a soul, they just have the lower chakras. What a narcissist famously do? They mirror people. And so people, they entrap souled people that way. So a lot of souled people will end up marrying an organic portal and then procreating with an organic portal. And when you procreate with an organic portal, you have a 50-50 shot of whether your kid's going to have a soul or not.
Wow.
Tell you what, man, this information would have been great. Like if we would have learned this when we were kids.
I just boyfriends ago. This would have been
really useful.
So for all the single ladies out there and single men, there's the to ask a person you're on a date with, do you have an inner dialogue?
Yeah.
Good first date question.
If you answer yes. Oh, I'm not going to think you're crazy if you answer yes, but this is important.
If you don't have if you're just can get up and go to work and not contemplate things, then we're going to end this right here because you don't have a body, basically.
Yeah.
What? But then part of me, like, it must be nice. Like, it must be nice.
It must be peaceful.
Yeah.
Not get up and go to work. Like, what? I overthink the clothes I wear. What are you talking about? Like, I change my mind on what I'm going to wear, like, multiple times. It becomes a stressful situation. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So, and so that, I think that's going to be the entry point for the Nephilim. Because they're not gonna mess with souled people, because especially at this point in time in history, it's too much energy for the Lizzies. They're not going to. The thing about the fourth density service itself is they're selfish. They're not going to expend energy if they can find an easier way to do it.
While they seem to have left no stone unturned, they are a little lazy at times, and that's where, when we're aware, we have a bigger advantage.
Yes.
We also have a bigger advantage too, because all of a sudden we now know the power of our consent.
Yeah.
The students talk about how with abductions that most of us have been abducted. We just don't know it. We were talking about that off camera because they're able to pull us in and pull us out, and they only abduct people with souls. They do not abduct organic portals, although they will implant fake abduction memories into organic portals. So 9 times out of 10, people claiming to have an abduction experience and can tell you the details, might be a fake memory, a false memory. Because most people who, like, I have no abduction memories whatsoever.
No.
But I can tell you now, I know as an O negative, I probably have been.
There was a time in my life, probably 2008, 2009, 2009, 2010. I was terrified to sleep.
Because
I would
of that?
sleep with all my lights on because I was terrified I was going to get abducted.
Wow.
And
Well, that's what
I don't know if that was a mind programming thing or if something was really going on, but it finally got to the point where I'm like, you can't do this anymore. Nobody can bother me. So that I was kind of figuring out the consent bit before.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
because that happened to me when I was a little girl. I was so afraid of being kidnapped. I would literally lay in bed and I would have the dinner on me, even if it was boiling hot, and I'd be sweating because I was so scared of being kidnapped. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this every night. I can't just lay here worrying. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to worry about it. If it happens to me, I'll deal with it then. Just like, and I've got to stop worrying about it now. And then eventually I was able to stop. But there was a long time there where I was just terrified every night. And I can't believe, yeah, you just said that, Jennifer. That's crazy.
And when
that might be like a hitch of your soul, like that. So what the Lizzies will do, and this might be what happened to you girls, even though you're little, because let me make this clear too. We are responsible for our karma from the minute we're born. So even though we say 8 of 8 is accountability, karmic wise, consent wise, from the time we're born. So you guys might have been picking up on this. So what the Lizzies will do is they will convince you that because you chose to come to physicality, you now consented to them abducting you. Now, whether you choose to believe that or not is your choice. They're going to try to convince you that you already gave your consent to be abducted. And if you believe them and you choose to believe them, then you've given your consent. But if you say, no, I chose to come to physicality, but I did not choose to be abducted, I do not consent, then guess what happens? It stops. Because they cannot consent.
So I remember being a little girl, and we moved from a major city when I was about 3 to a farm in the middle of nowhere. And my bedroom looked out the back of the farm. And I remember being a little girl and looking out them back windows and seeing lights rotating back by the pond in my mom and dad's farm. And there was a time where my family had came from the major city in our state, and there was a perfectly burnt circle in the grass by this pond. Yeah, and we've all talked about this as adults, like because my brothers were there and stuff like that. And we all have a different perspective of this burnt circle, but we remember it. So I wonder if it was like an alien thing or, them, or if it was Satan worshipers, because satanic panic was big in the town I grew up in. And the farm my parents bought had been abandoned for a long time.
Was it perfectly burnt or was it not? Did it look like a human did it or did it look like a machine did it?
It looked like, let's take a ring light. Now, from my perspective, I was 4, by the way.
Like, you don't really know if it was perfectly.
My perspective was a perfect circle. Like if you took a big old ring light, but next to that burnt thing was huge megalithic stones, like 5 to 6 feet tall megalithic stones in a circle.
So I think that was, so the Cassiopeians have talked, they're just saying, hey, sometimes when there's like crop circles, that it's just them, it's usually the good ones, like the Cassiopeians themselves saying, hey, or, hey, it's not, because they don't really interfere with our free will. So I honestly, because you were so little, Jennifer, and you, Paula, I think that this is just I could be wrong. This is not me channeling. This is not me. This is me speculating from what I heard from the Cassiopeians. So I could be wrong. As they said, they try to convince us, the Lizzies, that we gave consent to be abducted. I think that must have happened to both of you, where you were abducted at one point and made to feel like you gave consent. And as a child, in a child's mind, it's easy to believe, to consent to a being bigger than you, right? And so that's why I think you both were scared. But now as adults, no, I changed my mind. I did not give consent. You cannot abduct me. I have sovereignty. I will acknowledge that I'm the one with all of us, every soul. We said, sure, this sounds fun. And we sat down at the Texas Hold'em table. We decided to play poker. I made that choice. That is my power. I decided to come to physicality. I got to live with those consequences. I got to now work through the physicality. However, I did not give you consent, Lizzie's, to mess with my body. You will never be abducted by a good group of aliens.
Right.
Never.
Right. And there's a lot of people out there that I've come across that think that, you know, they've been communicating with these galactic spaceships and councils, etc., and that's just part of their life's plan is to be abducted and to communicate. And I'm like, I don't know, man. That's kind of sketchy. I don't know why you'd want to do that and why you think that was okay.
Why would an alien abduct you? For starters, let's think about this common sense.
To help humanity.
Well, they're studying you. They only abduct soul people because they're looking at you. They're implanting things in you to gauge how is this plan of theirs working to enslave you. They're not abducting you to give you hugs and kisses and a med bed. They're not. That's not what it's.
And you know what made the most sense? Because I do listen to so many of your videos, but I remember that one specifically about the alien abduction and stuff. It made so much sense to me that they're taking your fourth density body. Because I remember thinking, how in the heck do people like go through walls and how are they levitated through their bedrooms and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what do they like hang out up there for when you get ready to do your astral travel potentially for the night? And they're like,
yeah, they pull you. Yeah. It's so every night before I go to bed, even at this point, and what did the Cassiopeians say? They're like, how do we, and one of the things, because they were like 57, 30, like they were giving really high numbers of people, how many times they've been abducted. And they're like, well, how do we stop that? And they were like, well, you know about it now, don't you? That's how you stop it. Knowledge is power. You say, no, because they have to follow that is the rule, is that they have to follow consent. Now, they'll try to manipulate that consent to get you to consent. But
and they're good at that. They're so good at that.
Look at what the establishment does. Like, look at, digital IDs. Catherine was telling me this yesterday over on her channel. I thought, God, these fuckers, man, they are so smart. They are so clever. So in the UK, they were trying to do digital, all of us, all over the world.
Yeah.
That backfired after 2020. They had to stop that. So now guess what they're doing in England? They're trying to convince people to do like a Brit pass because of illegal immigration.
Oh.
So getting people to consent to basically a digital ID by manipulating an actual problem. And I was like, those sons of bitch. So all these people who are against digital IDs now are for it because it's called a Brit pass and it's able to monitor illegal immigration. These fuckers are clever.
Yeah.
How many people have said no to this but are now on Ozempic?
Well, wait a minute, ladies. So I'm a farmer girl. Okay. I grew up on a farm. Like their little baby chicks and stuff, they're vaccinated with this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's coming through the food. Yeah.
And my nephew, God bless him. Yeah, my nephew bought like 6 baby chicks, and I'm like, and he threw them in with the rest of the chickens. I'm like, dude, were those vaccinated? Well, I don't know. I'm like, well, where'd you get them at? Did you look at the freaking thing on the, like, we gotta start really paying attention, buddy. So I'm like, I'm kind of, God knows these chickens are laying eggs. I'm eating their eggs.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, with consent, though, I think that they have to be careful about your free will. And if you've said no, hardcore no to this, even if you could ingest something that might have, I do think there is some spiritual laws there that we are being affected by shedding. We do know that people are being affected by shedding. I know some people have gotten sick from shedding, but it's not near as bad as what people are going through, but they will manipulate what you perceive as reality in order to coax. It's like problem, reaction, solution. It's the same thing that the establishment does. Problem, reaction, solution. That's what the Lizzies do. Problem. But once you know their script, once you can read their bluff in this game of poker, you can start to read their bluff.
It's biblical, isn't it, Bryce?
Oh my God. Can we talk about that? I'm like, I really sometimes think this is an IQ test. I hate to be so mean, but I feel like you guys, of course the biblical prophecies are coming true. Of course they are. Because they wrote the script. If they wrote the script and they control the special effects,
yeah,
they can make the prophecies come true to indoctrinate you, to bring you into to take the knee to the New World Order.
I just can't fathom. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and there's a lot of good people out there that believe in faith of Christianity, and I'm not. But I just can't believe people don't think there's more. Like, there's older texts, there's older information than our Bible.
That's what blows me away. I just don't understand, why is the Bible so different to all the other ancient texts that are out there? Why is that one special? You know?
Because they left no stone unturned. They have messed with our minds collectively, generationally and ancestrally, that it's just, that's what we have. And it's just,
that's the word of God. I mean, how come the word of God has the copyright on it, owned by the Windsors?
No. I mean, and I was always fascinated with the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff. I mean, that was like the first ancient text I think I heard of outside the Bible as a kid. You know.
Yeah. Like, the thing that cracked me up, what I got the most when I started going through some of the missing books of the Bible, all these people who are anti-censorship. They're anti-censorship. They are mad about Facebook putting in the Facebook jail, but yet they're screaming at me, how dare I read these books should be censored and banned. I'm like, interesting. I thought you were anti-censorship.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And I love the missing books of the Bible. They were great. I read those with you and other content creators, and I just put hundreds of hours into listening to those and just was like, holy crap, wow. Again, if we would have known this information before now, life would be better.
Listen, if you truly believe what you believe, if you're at peace with what you believe, then somebody reading a banned book is not going to bother you.
That's right.
You're not going to be
exactly right.
So the fact that you're
bothered me. I don't get triggered about stuff.
I know that the church is BS. I know that the church is part of the establishment, that it's wicked. It's very wicked. I know Christianity itself is a cannibal cult, a sun-worshipping cannibal cult. I get that. I know that. I'm comfortable with my research. I also have a very close relationship with God. God and I are good. So I'm not on churches' YouTube channels leaving nasty comments. I never go to those YouTube. I don't care. I don't care, because there are good people that are still brainwashed that would never hurt anybody, and they just haven't realized that they're being taken advantage of. Right? But I'm comfortable with what I believe. I'm comfortable in my research. I'm comfortable that I know that a loving God would never throw people into the pits of hell, that we are the ones making choices, whether we want to go positive or negative. And that's a choice you make. It's nobody else's fault but yours. It has nothing to do with whether you believe in Jesus or not. And can we talk about that for a second? That really gets to me too, because Jesus means hail Satan. Jesus is not, Yahshua was his. And we're born with the Holy Spirit. If you have a soul, you're born with the Holy Spirit. It never leaves you. That's not something you have to ask for. That spirit of life, that kiss of God that is born. You look at a baby, they have that is in them. It never leaves you. So my question is, what demon have they convinced you to bring into your life by asking Jesus into your life? What demon is that why the church people are so violent?
Yeah.
Is that what's triggering this violence?
I'm just very uncomfortable with the idea of having to ask something out there to forgive you for your sins. It's just...
If I'm created by God, and that's what people don't, if you really think about what the church teaches, they're hypocritical, and they double speak. Because in one voice you're telling me I'm already created by God.
Yeah.
I can't have God unless I ask Jesus into my like that.
And why do you have to ask Jesus to come into your life to have God?
I mean, it doesn't make sense, because they've also turned it into man worship. And this was a big debate at the Council of Nicaea. The original Christians never believed Jesus or Yahshua was God. They knew he was a man, and he was the Son of God, as in we are all children of God. So that was the original Christian belief. Then at the Council of Nicaea, there was a huge argument over this. And through the Mithraism, the religion of Mithraism, they wanted to turn Jesus into a god, like Apollo, like Mithra. And that's what they did. And all of the original Christians that were like, no, 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 it's not about worshiping a man, it's about worshiping God, which is one of all of us. Guess what they did to those people?
Yeah.
So if someone's threatening to torture you, unless you agree to believe what they believe, you're probably going to agree. Just go ahead and agree. The gospel was not spread because of the good news. The gospel was spread through terrorism.
It was forced.
Well, they say there's even like a black magic and Godspell, the whole term. The spell.
Oh, absolutely. What do the Catholic Queen say about the Bible? It's bullshit, basically. It's all bullshit. And that the Gospels were written by the Greek three-letter agencies to control people.
That was really so eye-opening to me. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Because you wonder where it all come from and where they all started their little Bible gig of writing. Yeah.
Do you really think in ancient Greek and Israel, in the middle, whether that was America or over, do you really think there was a guy named Mark running around?
Yeah.
Or a guy named Matthew running around?
Like, I know, isn't that funny? Those names are they're
very
not
common. Joe, like I've done, I'm the family historian, and I've done genealogy, and I mean, so many Joes and
we got a lot of Joes
names over John, Joe, just the same names over and over again. I'm like, I think this side of the family was incubator babies because there's just no originality to it whatsoever. And I'm at like a total wall after a certain date. I can't find anything unless I go physically to Slovenia or Hungary to do my research. I'm not going to find anything.
According to what they tell us, that the J sound didn't even exist until like the 1600s.
Yeah,
I've heard that as well.
Why is there John? The book,
like this, like James would not have been in. Yeah, like what are you talking about? Like this would have never been a name.
So is this Mandela effect? Timeline switch?
I think it's just them rewriting the Bible. I think they started with the Greek three-letter agencies, and then they just keep twerking it. They keep tweaking it and twerking it, and then James rewrote it again with the Freemasons. They just took that template and changed it with the Freemasons.
They had to update it. They had to update it. Like they've been doing that to our history books in school, revise, new editions.
They had to rebrand.
Now, why not the Bible?
Went through a rebranding marketing phase, you know? And so, it's and people, the James was a freaking Satanist. I know all these Protestants think James was like this amazing Protestant king. Bullshit. You need to study the history. He was very open about his satanic practices. That information is out there. You cannot be a king or a queen. If you're a king or a queen, every single minute of your day is your shits are logged. Like they literally have the master of stool. That's a real job. Everything about that person is logged. Their life.
Wow.
They don't even dress themselves. Somebody comes in and dresses them. James was a practicing Satanist. He was very open about this. The original King James Bible had Lucifer, a painting of Lucifer on every single page.
So let's think about this, because we're the fallen angels and Lucifer. So what does that signify to him? Is that he has the knowledge and control of what we are?
Well, that Lucifer is the God of the Bible, which is in the Bible, actually. It's in the book of Revelation.
See, that's why I want to know more about. I need to do some research on that because I'm just curious, like how he got so prominent, like
with his Bible. Because
Lucifer. I'm sorry, how Lucifer was.
Lucifer, because they've been Luciferians for forever. That's just their whole worship is that selfish. That's the 4D negative, right? So they're trying to go 4D negative. 4D negative is about enslaving people, and so they do that to enslave people, but they have to tell the truth too. In the book of Revelation, in the very last bit, it talks about how when we go through about Gog and Magog, which I think that's where we're at the end of it, the real God will come back. So what does that tell you?
He is, in a sense. I think a lot of us are kind of like,
to be honest with you, but the real God, as like the real God is more like, you're my children. You sort it out. Like this is you have me inside of you. You know what to do, but you make choices. I'm not going to stand in the way of your choices. So, but would that be common sense? If you look at that last part of Revelation where it talks about that, It literally is telling you that the God in the Bible before this verse isn't the real God.
Yeah.
It's Lucifer, which makes more sense because Lucifer demands a human sacrifice.
Yeah.
Lucifer demands cannibalism. What's the Bible about? Old Testament is full of human sacrifices.
Hmm.
New Testament is a big whopping one. And what do we do in church with communion?
You know, as a kid, I remember going through Holy Communion and just being like so grossed out by that. I never
It's
drank the wine because I never wanted to drink after the other kids. But I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I know it is gross, isn't
And
it?
they said, well, it's cranberry juice, and I'm like, that's messed up. We're like
you're
Yeah.
representing
7 years
blood. Yeah.
old. And then I remember I was in trouble a lot, if you can imagine. I was in the corner a lot at catechism because I asked a lot of questions, especially about Noah and the flood. Excuse me, like, how did they get all those animals on the boat? Like, how did the lions
Yeah.
not attack the
I
zebras
wanted to
until
know that.
I live on a farm and I can see like animals
Yeah.
attack each other. And so anyways, but yeah, eating, I remember telling the father, that's not the body of Christ. That's a piece of bread that tastes like paper.
Stale cracker.
Why are you trying to tell me
Yeah.
this is the body of Christ? It's the symbolism. I'm like, well, it tastes like, no, I'm good. Yeah, I never was confirmed.
When the Protestant churches, we had our own little plastic cups. They would pass them.
Okay.
If we didn't get the wine, we just got the juice. And I know the big difference between a lot of Catholics is that Protestants do believe it's symbolism. Catholics believe it actually changes into transubstantiation. Is that what it's called? Where it changes into. That's fucking gross. Like,
They're probably down there in the basement doing their black arts over that
oh,
stuff.
absolutely, they are. You look at the Mithra temples underneath the
Yes.
old syrup. Like, this is proven. But how funny is it to me, you guys? Like, I feel like when I started to wake up, I got real humbled real fast. And I questioned every area of my life. But we have these Christians who can realize where all these areas of their life have been manipulated, but they are so programmed.
Yeah, they're just stubborn and hold on to
They can't
the
even
Bible.
self-reflect on their own religion and the
Yeah.
inconsistencies. If you believe in a loving God, why would that loving God demand the same rituals that are done on those islands in that park in California? You're doing
Yeah.
the same thing, honey. You're
I
doing
don't
the
know.
same thing.
I never liked church. I mean, like, I'm glad that I got to learn about God and about Jesus and about angels and things like that. But it's never felt right ever since I was a little
Yeah.
girl. I just
We,
never felt comfortable
we
there.
yeah, we knew. Kids
Yeah.
know.
I think on some level we just knew that something's not right there. Yeah.
It doesn't, shit doesn't add up. It's not adding up. The math ain't mathing on this.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me of something. I remember being a kid because, of course, they bang the church bells, and I never liked the church bells. And
Oh,
now, as I learned frequency, I don't think they were tuned correctly.
makes sense.
The organs probably weren't either from, well, you
Yeah.
know, the funny
They're meant to
too,
be extremely powerfully healing
the real
organs. Yeah.
organs, but not the organs we have now. They're off a little bit. Yeah, my grandmother played the organ. I preferred the piano to the organ. Um, she played both, but I prefer the piano. But you know, even praying for
Mhm.
people who have not given you consent to pray for them is witchcraft.
Yeah. And then we're just taught
I
to
never
do
knew.
that.
And I always used to do that all the time just to be like
Yeah.
a heartful person to just send good energy.
Yeah, we were taught that. We're taught to do black magic. We're taught to do, that's what the church is teaching is black magic.
Well,
If a
even like, I'm rubber and you're glue. What bounces off of me sticks to you. I mean, as
yeah,
kids, they're teaching us to spell cast.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not, if a person does not want you to pray for them, you don't pray for them. You do not interrupt
Mhm.
their karma. You praying for somebody or sending them healing without their permission is you basically slapping God across the face and slapping that person's soul. That soul made a contract with God for a plan. And there are certain things that that soul needed to go through. And if you try to stop that from happening, you are interrupting their karma and you are telling the universe that you think you know better. And that is service
Mhm.
to self.
Yeah.
Praying for people is selfish unless they ask you to pray for them.
Yeah.
Ask for that help and support, then you can give it
Mhm.
selflessly. But if you give it because you think you know better, you thinking you know better is selfish.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it on a vibrational level, you're not really sending a very good vibration if you think that you know what's right. You know,
Yeah,
that's
no,
not coming from, it's just if somebody asks for your help and you genuinely want to help them because you care about them, then you're sending off a very loving vibration. But if you're just like, oh, well, they need to know, they need to do this and they need to do that, then, you're
and
not
I'm
sending
worried
it.
about this. They seem depressed, so I'm going to send.
Yeah,
They might,
because I know everything and I know what's better. Yeah. It's
there
not
might,
sending a right vibration to them anyway.
yeah,
So you're not
they
actually
might,
helping them at all.
no, they might need to hit rock bottom. They might need that might be part of their soul
Yeah,
plan. They don't need
absolutely.
to have an awakening of their own. And if you interrupt that, you're stopping that from happening. And therefore, you're telling the universe that you're selfish enough to try to stop somebody from having the lessons they need in order for their soul to progress. You're only
Mhm.
fucking yourself over. You do not interrupt somebody else's karma. We are taught that from the beginning in yoga world. Do not interrupt somebody else's karma. If
And I
somebody
think
comes,
that's really, it's really important. And I think it's really important that we start to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's
yeah,
why I love what you teach about in your exercises and stuff as well. And I'm learning also with the healing work as well, because I've always just wanted to fix things for people. I always want to make people feel better. I've always been a people pleaser as a child and everything. And I'm just learning to feel more and more comfortable with it's okay to hit rock bottom. It's okay to feel uncomfortable emotions. It's okay to be uncomfortable because that's where the transformation happens.
I
that's
was
where
going to
there's
say
clarity.
my rock, I've had, of course, we've all had our rock bottoms, but my last one was the one that brought me up the highest.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
raised me the highest. I raised the highest. I'm like, I had to get that low to start to raise up because there
Yeah.
was
And
no other
sometimes you
direction I could
do.
go.
Yeah.
And my
Sometimes you've
boyfriend
just
says
got to get really low to get high.
to make the choice. My boyfriend always says it's about choice because suffering must exist because how else are we going to change?
Mm,
If
Yeah,
everything is
right.
lovely, wonderful, we're never going to change. We're never going to evolve. Learning doesn't happen in peace times.
no.
Learning happens during destruction. Wisdom happens during destruction. And so I've said it before, look what happened collectively in 2020. How many people got so uncomfortable that they had no choice
But to wake up. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
to wake up and to acknowledge the truth, right? And it's changed their lives.
Hmm.
If lockdown did not happen, if all that did not happen, they would not be where they are today. And so we have to acknowledge that, and we have to accept that that's just a part of the reality of this density.
Yeah.
And we can't interrupt that for people because sometimes people have to get so uncomfortable that they make the choice to pick better, to do better. And usually when people come to you for help, they're at that point. And then you extend that hand out to help them because they've made that choice. You're not overriding it and doing it for them. You know, if you had a child and that child never did their own homework, you just did their homework for them. And then that child went off to university and they didn't have you there doing their homework anymore, would they be prepared for university?
Yeah.
Their high school years might have been nice and easy because mama was doing their homework for them.
Yeah. But
But
then they're
with
going to struggle.
then they're going to struggle. So are you preventing someone from having a better future
Yeah.
because you're uncomfortable with them right now?
Hmm.
And the church is really bad about that.
Yeah.
Are praying that these Muslims or these Buddhists that they praying that Jesus will come in and right their wrongs of their faith. Like that is so bad, you guys. And I'm not saying that Islam or Buddhism is even better, but you have to back away. How many churches tell kids to go out there and witness? I've told this story before. One of my really good friends growing up was Muslim. She joined our school like middle school. We would go over and spend the night. And I never once, like we never talked about religion. Like I would go over sometimes for the end of Ramadan. She would invite friends over and we'd eat, but we never talked about it. And my mother never, she always like was make sure you say yes, ma'am, and no, sir. Like just be very helped to clean up. Like just have, they're invited you for for their religious um, festivities, be respectful. But then when I got to high school, my youth director pulled me over to the side and told me that if my friend goes to hell, it's my fault because I'm not witnessing. And I got really upset and I went home and cried to my mom, and my mom was like, Don't you even dare do that to them. I was like, I'm not going to, I don't want to do that. That makes me uncomfortable. And I was like, are they going to go to hell? And my mom was like, I don't pretend to know the workings of God, but your friend, I'm not going to say their name. They're going to be in heaven with us. Like even my mother was like, no, absolutely not.
What kind of responsibility to put that on a child?
On a child.
They do it though.
That's narcissism.
Yeah.
That's straight up narcissism. To think that you know better than that whole family's cultural background, that whole family's religion. That family is an incredible family. I still love that friend of mine. Like her brother and her still we follow each other. We're constantly like, yeah, that is an incredible family.
And just imagine what interference you could have done, or you could have destroyed your friendship by doing that.
Put extra trauma onto, like, that is traumatizing. Yeah, like, how dare, I mean, honestly, that family, the members were some of the kindest people in the community, way better people than my youth director. My youth director was so messed up that CPS got involved because he was doing inappropriate things in the back. Are you fucking kidding me? That's narcissism. And that's what the church does. The church, and it's not just the church is really bad at it, but there are other that have that they use narcissistic abuse tactics is what they do.
Yeah.
Which is Luciferian, which is organic portalish, which is actually my boyfriend, he actually thinks that a lot of people in Congress, like a lot of pastors, are probably souled people, have souls going fourth density negative, but a lot of their frequent congregational members are actually organic portals that they use to send out to the community to bring people in, sold people in. That's what my boyfriend.
That's an interesting concept. That's an interesting concept.
A lot of the pastors, they wear the black robes, so that's her name. A lot of the high-ranking pastors, like Joel Osteen, know they're Satanists. They go through those rituals. Billy Graham was a high-ranking Satanist. So they are sold people who are picking to do this, to manipulate people. And I think they use organic portals through the work of the Lizzies to fish for other sold people to feed off of. So for me as a kid, I was traumatized by my youth pastor saying that to me. That trauma created loosh that gave food to the Lizzies. And if I had actually done what he wanted and gone to my friend and tried to witness to Jesus, that would have created more trauma.
Yeah.
Given more food to, but I thank God I did not. Thank God that was. I would have done it.
And even thank God that your mum reacted the way that she did. Instead of if she encouraged you to do it, and then you would have felt obliged to do it. That's hard too.
I went to my mom crying because I wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to do that. Like, that's not. Yeah. That never crossed my mind.
No,
never to do that.
But it's awful. Like, it would have been awful if your mum had pushed you into doing that as well, because that's just how brainwashed people are. They all just follow suit,
I remember my mother got into a fight with one of my Sunday school teachers when I was really little, because the Sunday school teacher had told us that our animals don't go to heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My Sunday school teacher told us every Sunday we were going to burn in hell. Literally told us. And I remember going home and crying every week.
Oh, it's just traumatizing, isn't it?
And yeah.
But yet they worship the Prince of Peace, right? But they're the happiest ones, right?
And they're just happy to just make children feel like scum of the earth.
Because I even went like what you're talking is totally making me remember when I was like in the 3rd grade, my friend was a Baptist and they did like this trip to an amusement park, like 3 hours from here. It's in Ohio, Cedar Point. Big trafficking place, by the way. But up above like the little aquatic dolphin entertainment area, they had this big auditorium thing, and they did this big like Christian revival thing in there. They pulled me up on stage. Now I was Catholic and I had all the communion and baptism and all that stuff, but they were basically saying that I wasn't good. I wasn't welcome into their kingdom and all this stuff. And I was like, and I was really I don't know, maybe the Catholicism like broke me, but I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. So they did all this stuff up on stage, and I went home and told my mom, and the roof raised. I think she got in the car and drove to the people that took me that night and raked them over coals.
Good for her.
I don't know what you think you're doing, but my daughter is Catholic. You know, my mom's atheist, which is interesting, but she raised us with how my dad wanted us raised. She was always okay with that for a while. But but I forgot about that because they were like, and I'm like, well, yeah, whatever. I just didn't care. But
good on you. Like, that's great that you didn't care.
But everybody in the audience was crying. And my best friend at the time was like, oh my God, you're going to get into heaven. And I'm like, okay, I never thought I was not going to not go to heaven.
Right. Yeah. Like, what was that? Forrest Gump. He's like, I'm going to heaven, Lieutenant Dan. Like, it's never like this.
And all my traumatization after I went through catechism saying I was going to go to hell. Maybe when I got to first communion, I wasn't going to go to hell anymore. I don't remember how that all works. None of us.
Isn't it amazing how other people get to judge your soul's worthiness? Like, so narcissistic.
And I talked to so many people that were raised Catholic, and none of us can remember. And it's like, what kind of MK Ultra were we going under?
Yeah.
Oh well, I'll tell. So yeah, my mom did the same thing with the animals. She drove over to the church and went to my Sunday school teacher and raked her over the coals too. Called her an idiot, too dumb. Because and even in Revelation, it talks about the 4 horsemen. So if there are 4 horsemen in the book of Revelation, obviously they're animals in heaven. Like, and my mother, listen, my dad is a veterinarian. We had tons of dogs growing up. My mother is not an animal lover per se. You know, in the South growing up, she was very house proud. Our animals were not inside animals. They were outside animals. But the fact that she took that was the hill she wanted to die on. Like,
yeah.
So upset. The same youth director that tried to get me to witness to my friend, when we were like in the 8th grade, I think it was like the 8th grade. It was a summertime. I was young, like 14, 15. I don't think I was younger than 14. We went to this like church camp, and the boys had some cabins, the girls had other cabins, but it was just there was bigger church camps, but there was also just us, the Presbyterian kids. And so we were at Camp Laney. They had used Camp Laney, this boys' camp, for this event. And the girls stayed in one cabin, boys stayed in the other. And then we would go to the dining hall, and he would play his guitar at night. Like, he's some fucking, thought it was Bon Jovi. I don't know. You're singing to a bunch of 14-year-olds. What are you doing? Like,
yeah.
Like, you're a fucking weirdo. Like, I'm sorry, youth directors. You're weirdos. Why do you want to hang out with teenagers? Like, that's weird. That's creepy. Anyway, but he's playing his guitar. And then he decides he's going to do we have this talk, this exercise. They lock all the doors. It's already dark out. It's already late. So it's the last thing we're doing before bed. And they decide that we're going to have to go confess to each other bad thoughts we've had about each other. What? Now, there was this divide in our youth group because we had the private school kids, which is one of me, and the public school kids. And it wasn't like necessarily like a snobby divide. You're just naturally going to go hang out with the kids from your school.
Yeah.
Like, the kids you spend all day with.
That's just who you feel comfortable with.
Like, you're judging the public school kids or vice versa. You just spent all summer in chemistry and biology and English. These are the kids you go to school with. So you know these kids on a different level than the kids you only see at church on Sunday school, once a week versus the kids you see every day. And a few of my friends, we immediately knew that this was not okay. Like, this is causing problems.
Yeah.
There's inside thoughts.
Helping.
It's not helping. So my friend and I decided to try to leave. We were going to just go to bed. Wouldn't let us out. So we went and sat at one of the tables and we're like, well, we're not doing this. So we had to sit there and have other kids come up to us and tell us all the bad thoughts they'd had about us. We didn't respond. We didn't tell anybody any bad. And I'm proud of myself for that. I was like, I'm not participating in this. I'm not going to hurt somebody's feelings because this weirdo, who's obviously got a weird sexual fixation on children, because CPS got involved after that because of some weird shit going on. So obviously there was something weird about this, and that was a dominant. That was not about forgiveness.
No.
Your thoughts are private, and you don't say things sometimes to people because you don't even mean your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you ever want to just hurt somebody's feelings? Like, this is so fucked up. And I remember that. And I'm telling you, if you are still a Christian brainwashed, I really consider this, because this is evil. What he did that night was evil. That was evil incarnate. That was not about the love of God. The Prince of Peace.
No, that's not about helping people heal or be good
Especially
Christians.
vulnerable teenagers.
Yeah, exactly.
Vulnerable teenagers.
And, you know, that's probably why he was in that position, because it's easier to control young, vulnerable teenagers for whatever sick stuff he had going on.
The youth director we had before him, so we had this youth director before him that was only like intermediate, like he was only there for a hot second. I think the church like convinced him to take this job. I loved this youth director because we didn't talk about God at all. Like we would come to youth group on like Sundays. This was like when I was in middle school, like when it first started. And he would always have like ordered like Domino's, you know, and we would talk about like music. Like he never talked about God or Jesus or anything. He was like, so who like I remember when Oasis, one of Oasis's albums came out, and that's all we talked about was like which was our favorite song. In church. We're talking and that you know, I look back in that and he like threw like a Super Bowl party with a Super Bowl for us kids to go to someone's house, and there was no talking of God. We didn't even pray. Like we eat chips and dip and like watch TV. Like, and I look back at that, I'm like, that was actually probably the healthiest of all.
Yeah.
Because these kids are growing up in a church. They know who Jesus is. Their parents brought them to they were kids. And just to give them like a safe place to hang out and like
That's right. That's very, very helpful.
without shoving religion down their throat.
Yeah.
Looking back, he probably didn't want to be there. He was probably just roped into being there by the volunteer for the church while they got. But I mean, like that was the best because he was so chill and so cool. He never did anything about. I don't even think we had Bibles in that room, to be honest with you. Like it was never no guitar was played. There was no sing along. There was no extra. We just literally like talked about Oasis and ate Domino's and chips and dip and you know, that was it. I think he even had like one day, I remember we had our books that were like doing homework and he would like help us with our homework. Like, you know, it was like glorified babysitting basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fucked up though, isn't it? I think these youth with the youth director that CPS was called on, instead of the church like firing him, they just transferred him to another Presbyterian church in another state.
That's very,
What?
you know, that just like the Catholic Church, moving
They
their
protect their
around, covering it up.
which makes you wonder
Even the
why.
non.
Yeah,
I mean,
why would a church cover up for somebody who's done a lot of inappropriate things? This is a 30-year-old man with 14, 15-year-old kids.
Oh my God.
That again is you're a fucking weirdo. I'm sorry. If you are a youth director, you're a weirdo. Why do you want to hang out? I don't care if I
with
hurt your
kids. I have no desire to hang out with kids. And my friends have kids, and if I meet my friends and their kids are around, I'm nice to their kids. I talk to their kids, but I have no desire to hang out with kids.
I will go with my nephews and nieces and like entertain them and take them shopping and hang out with their friends. But I'm the aunt.
That's different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The mom or the dad or the aunt or the friend, and it's a social situation where you're also their guardian. That's different. But if you're actually volunteering, if you're a teacher, it's different. Although there are bad teachers, but if you're teaching children, that's a different relationship. It should be a very pure relationship where you're just teaching a child academically. But if you're actually, I mean, youth directors don't even make that much money. Like, what perverted obsession kink do you have?
It's kind of like the whole draw. Like, I mean, not to go off topic, but like the Santa Clauses, like some of these Santa Clauses in the malls were pedo, things, and these clowns, these freaking clowns.
Yeah.
I mean, there were, I think, positions placed that could guise and hide that attraction for young things. That's just my opinion.
I remember this youth director one time giving us a sermon on purity and how he had lost his purity. We'll say it this way, lost his purity card when he was a teenager, and he explained it to us. Looking back, like I was probably 16 or 17 at that time, and he was talking about when he was our age and how his girlfriend, I was so uncomfortable, and looking back, I'm like, you're fucking weird. What are you doing?
That's the point of
really not
discussing
appropriate.
that.
Like, I wouldn't even have that conversation with my nephews or nieces. Like, I don't even.
It's
like
I'm comfortable having it with my daughters, but I kind of have to.
Right. Well, actually, my boyfriend's funny. I asked him once, I was like, do you remember having the talk? And he goes, I think my boyfriend's like, I think by the time I came around, he's like, I don't remember having the talk. I think my parents just let the school tell me.
Same.
I think my parents just let the school tell me. You know, I like it's because he's the youngest of three. I think by the time he came around, they were like,
And I don't think sex ed was
You'll
always
figure it
in
out.
school. I think sex ed, I don't know if it was always in school.
We had it in school.
Yeah, I had it.
graduated in 93, but it seems like kids in the, like when my dad went to school, like 50s and 60s and 70s, I don't necessarily know if sex ed was part of the curriculum. Because when I was coming up, which would have been in the late 80s, early 90s, about that grade, was they were just starting to implement it in the school I was in.
But my parents taught me about it too. My mother sat down and she did not explain the mechanics of it all. Like it was a Christian, I remember she had like a picture book, like a Christian like book to read to us about how babies are made. And that's basically how it was explained. But it was just pictures of people in a bed with like blankets over them. So it never explained like the actual mechanics of it. Like that was never explained to me until I was in school. I literally for a long time thought it was just rolling around naked. Like I didn't know because
rolling the hay.
They did. I just thought if you kissed a boy, like I didn't. You had to be married, like that magical. You had to be like I didn't. Yeah. Nobody explained when I was that young the biomechanics of how it actually happens until I got to my 8th grade year, and I was like, I remember just being so grossed out because the first thing you think is like your parents, and you're like,
right,
it's like,
which is important. Why children shouldn't be exposed to confused things.
Right, and you know, for children to experiment, I know parents want to monitor that, and they should to an extent. But if they're experimenting with kids their own age, that's different. You know, than when they have a youth director who's 15 years older telling them stories. That's inappropriate.
Yeah, that's very inappropriate.
That is inappropriate. There's a huge difference between a 15-year-old and a 30-year-old. Now, a 35-year-old and a 50-year-old, not that much difference. My boyfriend's 11 years older than me. But when it's 15 and 30,
yeah, that's huge.
Not, no, that's inappropriate. And
that's just gross.
That's gross. And girls at that age are developed.
They're beautiful. Their bodies are perfect, and everything's perfect, and
stomachs, thick hair,
beautiful thought. I mean, beautiful figures.
The pride of your life. And so for a 6-year-old man to be explaining that experience to 15-year-old girls, that's perverted.
It is.
Weird. Like I was uncomfortable then, but I was still very naive and innocent. Looking back on it as a 42-year-old woman, I'm like,
wow, yeah, it's a whole nother level when you look back at this age.
I've really the last 2 years, my life, looking at my life in a reflection has been so evolving for me and so eye-opening because it was in our face the entire time.
Oh, so I remember. So when in my school, so that was a big disparaging thing again between the private schools and the public, because we had at my high school, the price, the upper school, as they say, we had like mandatory after school activities. We had at least 8 hours worth of homework every night. It was I think there was a lot of academic abuse going on. But nonetheless, when we got to high school, we couldn't go to Wednesday night church anymore because we were obligated to be at school and we had all this work to do. So we would only go to Sunday, the private school kids. So the youth group got very small. It was only the public school kids because of us Darlington kids had to be at school. And our parents were fine with that. That's just how it was. One Sunday, this particular youth director gave a sermon to us in youth group about how the Darlington school kids were going to go to hell because they were prioritizing their school over the youth group, meaning over him.
What is wrong with people?
This is the same dude. So this dude, I mean, I'm thinking like looking back, I'm like, why didn't, no wonder CPS got involved. Like this guy was probably needed to be in prison. Like he probably...
But they probably just moved him to some other place.
He went to Alabama.
We're going to promote you over here.
Unbelievable.
He would also, it was very academically challenging, my high school. We had these free periods where and all the kids would go to the library during free period. You know those desks they had with this was before like computers where we would do homework at these desks. So my youth director started coming on campus. Now, it's a private school. It's not public school, so there was no security system. He would just drive up, walk on campus. He would come into the library, like you would be in the desk, like studying, focused on your work for your private. He would take his t-shirt and then put it over your head. So you were between his hairy belly, and you would be sitting there trying to like do your calculus homework, freaking out because you have a test and you're overwhelmed anyway as a 16, 15, 16-year-old trying to do this overwhelming academic work. And this guy was coming on the campus and doing that to the youth, the kids who went to my church. Putting his t-shirt, so he'd come up, he'd put the t-shirt over your head so that his hair, remember he had a hairy chest.
Ew.
And he had a t-shirt on. It was a private
So
school. We were
inappropriate. What the
dresses
freak?
and guys wore ties. I mean, we had to wear like dresses and guys wore coats and ties. So we were dressed up at school. He would walk on and just come into a library, and the school allowed it.
I have
What?
no t- for that. I have no
I mean,
words.
what? He would go hang out. We had a school store, which they had like in high school. You could either go to the dining hall or you could go to the school store, and they had like fast food would bring some. You could buy food. So people, when they had like a pool table, it was kind of like a little rec room. And during lunch, you could go and hang out in the school store. He would go hang out with people, and this like
They just allowed him into the school to just.
as a 42-year-old woman, I do not. I'm asking you, ladies. We're all around the same age. Would you want to go spend your lunches in a room with a bunch of 15, 6-year-olds?
No.
No thanks. I've got too much to do. I'm not interested.
I don't want to either. That's
I
I
have
don't.
bowls to play.
Yeah, that's right.
What are they talking? What are they going to be? They're going to be giggling about some hot guy, and the guys are going to be about like this. No, like what are you doing? That was
Oh,
very.
it's so weird. I just can't believe that nobody stopped him from
I
doing
mean, that's
that.
like child sniffing in my view. That's like at the
Oh
level
yeah,
of
so much. Well, they putting your child's head between. I mean, he did it to everyone between his chest and his t-shirt. Like that's
Fuck.
fucking
was he
weird.
so he came up behind you, right? I just want to
So he would
clarify.
come up behind you. You'd
So
be
your
so protected.
the back of your head was on his belly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, okay. So for the
Ugh.
young,
I
this
guess
was like the late '90s. So there was no like, these were desks with no computers. Because we would actually use the Dewey Decimal System to go get books. So you would have your books open, your book bag. You were in this cubicle, and you're like sitting down, not even because the cubicles are designed not to distract you, right? That's why they have
Yeah.
them so you can focus. So you're sitting there, you've got like 45 minutes of a prepare. You're cramming your because there's a lot of academic pressure on you in the school. We took all college level classes from high school. It was crazy. I mean, again, that's another story for another day. So you're panicking, you're under anxiety and stress, trying to maintain grades, trying to like, and you're so focused on this work, and then all of a sudden, so let's say I'm him. You're sitting here, I'm sitting here. He would come up behind you, take his t-shirt, put it over your head, and then like shake it around. So he has this hairy belly, and he's just and so you're taken by surprise. It startles you. So you have a shock to your system, like, because you're not even expecting it. You're in your own world. And then all of a sudden, I remember, like you say, feeling the hair from, and I had thick, long hair, right? But feeling that in the back of my head and the sweat, like
That's so
Oh,
disgusting.
yeah.
kind of chubby. Like he was kind of chubby. So he would have like these like man boobs and this sweat and this BO.
Yuck. And that's just such an invasion of your personal space.
Why didn't the librarians like kick him out? Why didn't the librarians say
I'm
this
blown
is-
away that by adults did nothing to stop him from.
Yeah, I
think
can't
they thought
imagine
it was
how I would
the
react
director.
if I witnessed that, I can't imagine how I would react.
I think if I witnessed it now at 42, I'd be like, you're gonna have
What
to
the-
leave.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm a librarian, this is my territory, and my part of my job is to maintain order in the library, but it's also to protect the children who are in
Yeah,
there because
let's
I
start
live in
protecting.
school. These are children.
And that's just it. We haven't been protected. We weren't protected when we were, it just, and it's, I think
No,
it's up to a
because-
lot of us in our age group to start speaking out when we see stupid stuff,
Yeah, because so much people pleasing happens, and it freezes people into not
Yeah.
taking action. Like I loved hearing that your mum's stood up for both of you, because my mum didn't, because I think she was just frozen in that people pleasing, don't rock the boat, don't, and so I think it's quite damaging when your own parents don't have your back. Yeah. So yeah, that's just crazy.
It's
Man, I hope that guy
to be
really
protected.
got his karma.
Oh no, he is still out there. Actually, I think he follows me on Facebook. Like that's
Oh,
weird. Like
lovely.
I don't know if he's still my friend on Facebook. I remember when he sent me a friend request, and I was like, "What the actual
You're
fuck?"
like, what?
No,
Oh, you're
thanks,
not.
Belly.
Listen, I'm in my 40s now, so you're an obvious line. Obviously, I'm too old for you. So I guess I'm at this point.
Laugh, but
Because I'm too old for you now. So but I could have a child in high school. I'm old enough to have a child in high school. I don't, but I could. And so I would hate it if you were her youth director because I mean I wouldn't raise my kids in the church anyway, but that would be a problem with me if my and you know I don't know if I even told my I don't even know if we even said because the private school I went to like a lot of the day students we all had grown up together. Our parents were members of the same country club, so we spent the summers together at the pool. A lot of us went to the same church, and now I since learned, I didn't know this then, that Presbyterians typically are a wealthier congregation. That's very typical of
Yeah.
Presbyterians are wealthier, very usually, and I didn't know that until as an adult. So that makes sense as to why a lot of the kids in my class who were day students, we all went to the same church too.
Yeah.
Looking back, I'm like, yeah, every person at my church, every dad was like a doctor or a lawyer or a business. Like that makes sense. Um,
Hmm.
that makes sense that they kind of hung together. And while the kids, there was a huge like majority of the kids in the Sunday school programs were private school kids.
Yeah.
That obviously affected the Wednesday night program because once the high school started, he only had like 3 kids, and because the rest of us were at school.
Clearly that wasn't enough for him, so he had to come
So he had to
harass the school.
that's the problem with the private school too. I know public that would never have happened at a public school, right? Because you would have to go through the front door. You would have to go in through. They would have to check you in, give you a visitor sticker. But in private schools, people can come and go
when
because
it's yeah, privates.
Mm.
Oh wow, I don't know. They just see. I grew up in a school that was open. My nephews went to a private school. It was open, so I think
yeah,
these more guarded
Yeah, no,
schools is
public
something that's happened
schools,
in the last 15 years in my area, anyways. So I
public
never
schools, I
experienced
mean,
that.
I've worked in public schools as a teacher's assistant, and yeah, you got to sign in, you got to sign out.
Wow.
yeah. You
Yeah.
don't have to do that wrong.
The gates are locked up. You can't get in except through the front.
You didn't have
Yeah.
gates. You just drive out. And I mean, if a student was going to leave early, they'd have to go to the dean's office and sign out.
Yeah.
But they were always with their parents, so they knew that they had to sign out who they were leaving with. But that was just because the school was responsible for, if a student went missing, they needed to know. But it's not like the school couldn't let you leave. They had to let you leave. It was a private school. Your parents came and got you. Like they had to let you leave. But parents could come and go. Sometimes parents would come and have lunch with their kids. Like it was not there was no one guarding who. So this guy would just come on campus and just gallivant around the campus. And I remember like I would see him down. We had lots of we had a lake with swans on it and like very pomp and circumstance. But you would see him and he wouldn't even be he wouldn't even be dressed the part. Like he would stand out like a sore thumb because he would have on like Umbros, like sports shorts and a t-shirt when everybody else, all the kids were dressed in coats and ties and because we had to dress up. And the teachers were dressed in coats and ties and dresses, and then he'd be out there like some cool kid. It's like he was playing out some fantasy of being the popular kid in high school, is what it felt like, even back then. And at my school, there really wasn't that. There really wasn't like cliques because we were all fucking stressed out all the time with academic work. And it was so small that no one really, we all knew each other from the time we were kids. So it wasn't like that stuff didn't really exist in my school because no one had time to be in a clique.
Yeah.
So it was like, anyway, it was just weird. This has been a fun episode because we just totally got
It has. We've been chatting.
Yeah.
I gotta go to bed.
I know, I gotta go to another show soon. But that was fun, Jennifer. You gotta come back and do this with us. If you guys have any questions about sound healing, make sure to ask Jennifer down in the comment section below. Make sure you do subscribe to her channel, guys. Again, all those links will be down in the description box below.
Yeah.
And if
You're welcome to send me an email if you have any questions about anything or if you're interested in the sound healing or have questions on any of it.
Awesome. And all that contact information, is that on your YouTube channel? I can't speak, Jennifer.
Yes, yes, it'll all be there.
I will put that
make sure everything's added there. I gotta probably look that over real quick. But I do want to read something out of an Edgar Cayce book that you two ladies may find interesting about exercise and disease with the body.
Ooh, yeah.
That's
Got my
great.
old school Edgar Cayce book here. So it says here, we have to search our inner selves for the real source of our disease or physical health, for these are a reflection of our spiritual self. The Edgar Cayce physical readings often suggest that spiritual help was more needed than physical application for healing. Actually, health is the result of both past and present lives, as in this case. And then it goes on and does a reading, which I won't go to. But I wanted to just specify how he was specific about how we aren't getting enough spiritual healing.
Yeah.
It starts in the
I
body.
love your Cayce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The body's the Shakti of the soul. It's the representation of the soul and physicality. And so that's our number one priority. So, all right, you guys.
And
well, this is
one more quick thing, because I know you've been doing the Egypt, America. What if, because Tartaria is so baffling, correct? What if some of our Capitol buildings were buildings from Atlantis?
Oh, I believe that. I think a lot of the Tartarian buildings are Atlantean.
Because it's like if you look at like the domed buildings, which is of course the capitals and things, but then you've got like our big cities, which are a completely different architecture. So I'm like, what are the difference in the timeline? That's just been my own little thought process.
Yeah, I think that's why the darkness can't create anything. It can only invert from the light. So that's the reason why. I know the Cassiopeians say Washington, D.C. is a fourth density entry point.
I believe that. It's so, yeah.
We don't want to get rid of DC, guys. We don't want to burn it down, drown it. We want to.
In these stupid texts I get say that, and I'm like, oh my god, just don't know that enough of our beautiful architecture has been destroyed over millennia. Just please don't destroy anymore.
And how clever they're getting you to continue to destroy it. You're destroying that your own ancestors built for healing.
Crazy. If you don't know how bad I'd like to go into one of those and be like, amplify, you know, how much that would amplify in some of those buildings.
If you think you're awake and can't be deceived, you're the first person that's going to be deceived. Right? Yeah. You have to be aware of deception everywhere and be humble enough to admit that you can still be deceived. Please don't go destroying these old Tartarian buildings, no matter if the cabal has taken them over, because those are ours and we want them back. And we can fix them. Yes. Don't destroy them because they want you to destroy them. Because if they can't win this game, they're just going to stand up and turn the board over anyway. So don't help the Lizzies. Don't help the Lizzies. Most of the truthers are actually right where the Lizzies.
They sure are. They're
right where the Lizzies want them to be.
Moldy like putty.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, you guys. Well, this was fun.
Ladies. It was great to see both of you.
Absolutely. You guys remember, if you want 20% off your first 6 months at the Esoteric Academy, use Jennifer B for 20% off. And we look for you can get to know Jennifer even better over on the Esoteric Academy, you guys.
Thank you.
Our next exercise class, for those who want to know, our live exercise class, we just dropped a new somatic shaking healing class that's new.
Going to do that today.
Oh, I can't wait to see how you like it. And then we're going to be doing a live class on the 21st at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So 9 a.m. That link is going to be sent out soon. I'm going to actually be writing up the email and sending that to Paula today. So next Saturday, the 21st at 9 a.m. Eastern time, it will be a live, and we're going to do a somatic slowdown class. So it's going to be a slower class where we're going to hold things for longer and really feel it comes up. And then we have, for those who want to join in on the Academy, we have a course on the Cassiopeians where we're looking at Laura's Riding the Wave book and also comparing it to the Yoga Sutras. And we're going to be doing a roundtable discussion about the first 3 chapters of Laura's book, Riding the Wave, along with combining that with the Yoga Sutras. We're going to be filming that on Saturday, the 28th at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Again, I'm going to send that to Paula. That link will be sent out to all of our Academy members. And anyone who wants to join us to be recorded for that episode, you will be recorded. If not, you just ignore the link and send us your questions, whatever. But after we get that episode up, we will be doing the next 3 chapters after that, and then looking at talking about those and discussing those. So anyway, you guys, anything else you want to add in, Paula, for any upcoming stuff with the Academy?
No, I think that's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. Awesome, guys.
I really enjoyed this chat.
I know. And if you learned anything out of this chat, be very dubious of youth directors. You fucking weirdo. Weirdos, you're weird. Like, why are you doing this? So anyway, all right, you guys, we will see you all later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.